Hi, this is my review of Land of Seed and Blossom for the Ninja Crusade 2nd edition role-playing game. In case you haven't seen my other reviews of the Ninja Crusade 2nd edition RPG, I'm going to put the relevant links in the description below so that you can check them out. Now, this book contains a very robust, very complete expansion for the meta plot of the Ninja Crusade. It works in parallel to the main plotline. That is, this is not advancing the timeline. Rather, this is showing you the conflict of the Ninja Crusade, and more specifically, the occupational activities of the Iso Empire from a different perspective, that is, from the angle of the inhabitants of the Land of Seed and Blossom. Now, let's talk about the quality of the PDF. The quality is quite good. I think that perhaps this document surpasses the other Ninja Crusade sourcebooks in quality. I couldn't find a single typo throughout the entire PDF. And everything is very well organized and written and explained. The document is fully bookmarked, and you even have hyperlinks in different sections. So for example, in the section of the clans, you have hyperlinks that take you to each of the clan sections, so it's going to be really easy to navigate the entire PDF. I also like the layout and the graphic design overall, including the awesome looking illustrations that combine that aesthetic of comic book and manga. Now let's talk about the contents. Another thing that I also really liked is that you have different pieces of fiction to get you into the theme of this book. The Land of Seed and Blossom is another land that has been occupied by the Iso Empire. So you're going to see these different clans of ninja that feel a bit more shamanic or spiritual when compared to the other ninja in the core rulebook. The ninja clans in the core book felt a bit more mercenary and a bit more pragmatic, while the clans in the Land of Seed and Blossom feel more savage, more tribalistic, and more focused on their union, or perhaps you could say communion, with the land itself. The Land of Seed and Blossom has been under a lot of turmoil and violent changes, symbolized by the 7 catastrophes. The first catastrophe was the invention of man. Now, one interesting thing of each of these catastrophes is that even though they represent obstacles and calamities that happened to different areas and villages and towns of the Land of Seed and Blossom, each catastrophe features an immortal, divine being that he or she, because there are several immortals, they feel quite separate, quite different from humans and from different ninja. They feel almost like at times monstrous deities, at times otherworldly beings. So these powers, these entities, are a source of mystery and power. And as I was telling you, the invention of man catastrophe features the inhabitants of the Land of Seed and Blossom when they were at their most primitive, when they were clashing against each other, using simple tools of bone and stone. So the first immortal, which was Lu Dongvin, arrived. He started to teach humans how to use more sophisticated and advanced tools. He started teaching about advancement and civilization and how to use the tools and natural resources in more and more complex ways. And then came the second catastrophe, the Plague of Trees. The Plague of Trees has to do with the recognizing or respecting the lethality of the environment. The people of the Land of Seed and Blossom were constantly dying because they were eaten by predators, They were infected, perhaps due to their contact with poisonous plants and insects. So this second immortal taught them how to use the natural resources in a more harmonious way, even to the point that they could actually heal themselves with the different plants and organisms in the land of seed and blossom. Another very interesting thing is that each of these immortal beings left behind disciples and teachings that would develop into the ninja clans of the land of seed and blossom. And of course, each of these clans represents a different immortal, a different portion of this vast creation myth. And then we had the third catastrophe, the culling of the lambs. Now, people began to prosper because of their technology, their civilization, and their understanding of the different natural resources. But they came to a point where they became too engrossed, too self-centered, too shallow, and they started to reproduce to the point that they started to almost eliminate their natural resources, consuming everything in their path. So death was necessary to keep the numbers in check. There were just too many humans. There was not enough food. There were problems related to territory and land. So the third immortal had to appear and propagated death and disease, killing many of the inhabitants of the land of seed and blossom, reminding them that there is life, but there is also death, and that life is very precious and should be spent in its most virtuous way. So this immortal brought the lesson of death and disease. Then came the fourth catastrophe, the calming of the dead. With so many dead people around, those corpses and restless spirits, there were many undead threats. It was like a mini zombie apocalypse, and the inhabitants of the land of seed and blossom did not know what to do. So this fourth immortal appeared and started to teach people how to carry out the burial rites and dispelling procedures, so that the dead would rest in peace. And then came the fifth catastrophe, which was the catastrophe of the poisoned bodies. So the land started to suffer different transformations related to this strange disease. That is, there was this untreatable condition, toxic, or you could say viral malady, that even with the teachings of the second immortal, it could not be cured. So this immortal had to teach the people of the land of seed and blossom about the mysteries of the blood. So this disease, known as Fa, was brought under control with the teachings of this immortal that also taught the people of the land of seed and blossom how to carry out correct and safe childbirth, or at the very least, how to mitigate the damage during a complicated birth. And then came the loss of joy, the sixth catastrophe. This is when the Iso Empire finally invaded. So all of the Blossom Ninja tried to put up a resistance against the Iso Empire. However, the people of the land of seed and blossom were quite peaceful when compared to the people of the Iso Empire, so they were quickly overwhelmed. And because they were constantly trying to respect the land and protect it, the Iso Empire took advantage of this weakness and took the land of seed and blossom is currently occupied by the Iso Empire. So this next immortal appeared, teaching the people how to transform their bodies. This immortal had this discipline of, or jutsu of, shape-shifting to the point that their entire bodies could be altered, and he used this mastery over flesh and bone to bring joy through artistic displays. And then came the seventh catastrophe, the wild infestation. There was a plague of insects, a new type of bug called the Sioux. And the Sioux started to devour everything, crops, and it also affected the people in general. So this seventh immortal came, and it basically taught a specific group of people, which would be the later clan that specializes in the control of insects, how to take the insects into their bodies and live in harmony with them, even wielding their powers. Now there is an eighth catastrophe, and this is, you could say, part of a prophecy of sorts. It's the uprising. Nobody knows how exactly it's going to happen, but they are sure that a new immortal will come with this eighth catastrophe to bring a new lesson to the people of the land of seed and blossom. So the land of seed and blossom was occupied by the Iso, but they couldn't take immediate action against them because they were, as I was telling you, they are quite peaceful. They believe in living in harmony, and they have great respect for family and for their elders. They all feel quite connected. There could be conflict between the different clans of ninja and different villages of the land of Seed and Blossom, but in general, it's a lot less bloody an affair when compared to the ninja clans of the Iso Empire. So it was only until one of the two elders that ruled over the entire land of Seed and Blossom, that when he died, that the clans decided to take action. One of the disciples of the immortal who taught about disease and death, which was the clan of Jokubas Pox, took control and decided to organize an uprising to finally fight against the Iso Empire and drive the invaders from the land of Seed and Blossom. All of the inhabitants of the land of Seed and Blossom usually fit in different castes. Some of them are a bit more important than others, or at least they have a higher hierarchy. So you have gatherers, family bearers, hunters, adventurers, but the positions of, for example, advisors and chiefs are usually reserved for the older members of different ninja clans. As I was telling you, age features quite prominently. It's quite important because it's usually related to wisdom in a land so dangerous as the land of Seed and Blossom, where you not only have to fight against common everyday life problems, but also the threats of the natural world. Reaching old age is a thing to be respected. It's quite admirable. They so have started to try to take the different traditions and cultural traits of the people of the land of Seed and Blossom, sometimes quite violently, because the Iso Empire wants to dominate the entirety of the land. And one particular tradition, for example, is that everyone who has been born in this mystical land gets a gemstone embedded into their foreheads as a way to connect them to the land and to their fate. And the Iso Empire has gone to the length of even forcibly removing these gemstones from the foreheads of the people of the land of Seed and Blossom. Now let's talk about the clans. The first clan is the clan of the Bamboo Alchemists. The Bamboo Alchemists know almost everything about how to use plants and alchemical substances, anything that they obtain from the natural world to heal and strengthen their bodies. One of the clans of the core book, the Bamboo Herbalists, actually are an offshoot of this particular clan, and they don't have very positive relations between each other, because the Bamboo Alchemists consider the Herbalists to be like a bit of like betrayers. However, even though the bamboo alchemists are probably the most skilled healers, they have to depend on the Sisterhood of Blood when it comes to the malady of Fa. And then we have the crystal bearers. These are the ones who perform this sort of like crystal baptism upon the different children that are born to this land. This gem on their foreheads, it basically expresses everything about that particular individual, even some of the mystical powers that that individual can use. So the crystal bearers are perhaps the ones who have a more clear vision of the destiny of the entire land of Seed and Blossom. And then we have the Grim Creepers. Now the Grim Creepers are the ones who took those insects, the zoo, upon their bodies to the point that some supernatural effect happened and their bodies have been deformed, reshaped to house these colonies of bugs. But because of that, they hold great power over these insects to the point that they actually use them in their attacks and defenses. And then we have the Phantom Voices. These are the ninja that communicate with the dead constantly. They are the ones who keep all of those corpses from rising as the hungry dead, as those creatures that have a lot of unfulfilled things, or perhaps they are prisoners of their own rage and hate. This clan of ninja, the Phantom Voices, also known as the Phantoms, are the only ones who can purify and guide the dead to their particular destiny. And then we have the Sisterhood of Blood. Only women can belong to this ninja clan, and they have the secrets and powers over blood and the birth. They are able to stop incorrect births or deformities in children and deaths. The women of other clans could not handle such disastrous events during an incorrect childbirth. And then we have the Splendid Chameleons. Now, the Splendid Chameleons are artists, but they're also quite bizarre at times. They have the knowledge of reshaping their entire bodies to the point that they can actually change their genders, and they have these strange parties and orgies. And then you have the Jokubas Pox. Jokubas Pox is a clan that specializes in creating plagues, disease and death. They are somewhat creepy or tenebrous when compared to the other clans, but they are a necessity to eliminate that which is threatening the land of Seed and Blossom. In chapter 3 we have the roots of the people, and here we have many different provinces, villages, towns, different sites. Some of them are quite mysterious, they feel quite mythological, and they give you a very strong sense of the types of adventures and campaigns that you can have in the land of Seed and Blossom. There are some places, for example, there is this particular island that pretty much no one knows what's in that island, and almost every clan, even including the Iso Empire, want to know what's in that particular area. You also have description of different ruins. Some of them are quite sacred, and they represent sites of pilgrimage. Every time a child is brought into the land of Seed and Blossom, they need to be taken to these places to receive that baptism of crystal that I was telling you about. So you have different places such as the Yujin Fort or the Shoyo no Me. You have some very extraordinary places and quite moody as well. For example, those places controlled by the clan of the Phantom Voices, they feel like a combination of city or village with graveyard, so they feel a bit like a necropolis. There are also many sites that you cannot enter unless you are accompanied by a ninja of a specific clan, because even though all of the clans work together, and despite some conflicts that arise here and there, they still hold different places as exclusive to members of their clan. So unless you have friends or contacts within specific ninja clans, you won't be able to get access to those places. You also have information on different outposts of the Iso Empire. Those are potential targets for the ninja that are carrying out the uprising to attack those places and weaken the grip of the Iso over the land of Seed and Blossom. And you have information on the funeral and burial rites. Another place that feels quite wondrous is that area controlled by the Splendid Chameleons. It feels like a group of mini gardens hidden in the most wild and overgrowth areas of the wilderness. So suddenly you may be walking in this very vast, very thick jungle, and then you find these carefully tended gardens. You also have information on different areas where there are some very rare plants that can be used for medicinal or even medicinal or harmful purposes. And so different clans, like for example the clan of Jokubas Pox and the Bamboo Alchemists, have an interest on dominating this area in its entirety. So you have more information on cities and provinces, and the places controlled by the Grim Creepers are also quite interesting because they feel like a network of tunnels that insects would use, or perhaps moles across the land, and some of these tunnels can be used to gain passage through the different areas without the Iso Empire noticing. You also have information on some punishments because, for example, the Splendid Chameleons performed this very bizarre and twisted method of imprisonment in which they capture an enemy, and through their jutsu they make a sort of like a cocoon or sculpture of wood, metal, and the victim's body to serve as a horrific example to others that are thinking of invading the land of Seed and Blossom or territories that are under the control of the Splendid Chameleons. You have a lot of information, it's quite complete, so you won't run out of ideas to create adventures or campaigns. In Chapter 4 you have all the information you need to create a ninja specific to the land of Seed and Blossom. You only need to modify a few steps in the character creation process. Because, for example, you only need to replace the birthstones in the process instead of elements during the creation of. But there's also information on new afflictions and tragedy selection. But so it's quite easy to take elements from this creation process and modify them so that the character feels more like that particular character was born in the land of Seed and Blossom. So, for example, when it comes to the birthstone, as I was telling you, it expresses a lot of the personality and psychology of that ninja. So we have the birthstone of Diamond, of the element of Earth. So characters with this stone, they look at everyday situations from every possible angle. And they have bonuses to empathy and fortitude. And they have things such as overthinker, sharp-tongued. And then we have the emerald or gemstone belonging to the wood element. And these people, everything about their lives revolves around performance. They are quite optimistic and they smile in the face of danger, so they have bonuses to crafts and might and perform. They are quite critical and loyal. And then you have the stone of Onyx of the metal element, and they are known for their silent nature and observance of the world around them, with traits being as independent and intense. And then you have Opal of the water element, who love to travel and are quick to change their mind if introduced with new information, so they could be clever and sensitive. And then you have Ruby of the element of fire. They are quite passionate and quick to excite or anger. So they could be envious or they could be leaders. And then you focus on the caste. As I was telling you, some castes are a bit more respected, depends. Some castes are more suited for older people. So you have things such as a wise man, shaman, expert, warmonger, trader. And you can use all of these different castes to better shape the role, the particular role or specialization of a ninja in society. And then you have new afflictions, such as Fat Carrier, that is a carrier of that mysterious blood disease. Or maybe you are on Jewel, that is perhaps the Empire took the jewel out of your forehead. So you have different bonuses related to that and triggers. And then you have new fighting styles. Some of them are a bit more suited thematically, in my opinion, to different clans, to specific clans. So you have styles such as the Frog style, the Rhino style. You also have the Sloth style. And each of these have different levels, of course, of mastery, because in Frog you have things such as Wall Launch, Expert Dodger. In Rhino style you have destabilizing strikes, pushing through the wind. When it comes to the Sloth style, you have things such as calculated movements. Then you have the Spider style with things such as deceptive movements or 8 legs strike at once. You have new jutsu, and again, each jutsu feels more suited to a specific clan. You have the Way of Denied Repose. The phantom voices are tuned into the spirits that once ruled the earth, learning how to call upon them for assistance in times of need. So you have basic jutsu such as Death Immunity, Death State, Reanimate Beast. You have medium jutsu such as Death Gaze or Reanimate Person. And you have advanced jutsu such as Audience with the Ancestors or Reanimate Self. You have Way of the Hive Body of the Grim Creepers, which things such as, in basic jutsu, Bug Bomb or Empowered by the Hive. You have medium jutsu such as Barrier Devourer or Insect Cloud. You have advanced jutsu such as Into Your Heart, and that is these insects can attack the enemy's heart directly, or Multiply Attack or Swarm Form. And then you have the Way of Molded Bones. The Splendid Chameleons bathe themselves in potions that create bones and flesh that can easily be manipulated by their jutsu. And then you have basic jutsu such as Bone Capture, Bending Body. And you have medium jutsu such as Bone Weapons, Flesh Servant. Yes, you create a being that serves you entirely out of your own flesh. And then you have advanced jutsu, such as the Bone for Blood or the Clone Technique. You even have the gender switch there I was telling you. And then you have the Way of Shards. The training regimen undertaken by Crystal Bearers requires years of focusing to connect with their birthstones. And here you have different techniques, such as in the basic jutsu category, you have Birthstone Knowledge, Crystal Weapon. When it comes to medium jutsu, you have Reflection Stance, Shimmering Barrier. And in advanced jutsu, you have some very powerful ones, such as Encase, that is, you create a cocoon of crystal around objects or other beings. And you also have Lights in the Sky. And many of these jutsu related to the crystals and gems, they have to do with manipulating your opponents through mental effects as well. And then you have the Way of Unending Blight. The ninja's almost constant contact with various sicknesses has given them a deep understanding. So you have in basic jutsu Aura of Sickness, Overwhelm Poison. In medium jutsu you have Plague Transference Gem, Rotting Technique. And in advanced jutsu you have Corrupted Land, the Dead Tree, Pox Creation. And then you have the Way of Vital Currents. Mastery of the Way of Vital Currents means the ninja wields power over life and death itself. So you have basic jutsu such as Blood Darts, Perfect Cleansing. And then you have medium jutsu such as Blood Whip, Draw Out Blood. And then you have advanced jutsu such as Blood Form or Blood Mist, which reminds me a bit of Basilisk. That is the anime Basilisk. And then you have new celestial animals, such as bats. And you also have examples of some powerful celestial animals as well. You have greater bats, boars, greater boars, frogs and greater frogs, and so on. And then we have the adventure, and don't worry, I'm not going to give you spoilers. This is basically an adventure that can be played as either Blossom Ninja, that is inhabitants of the land of Seed and Blossom, or you can play as ISO Ninja of the Lotus Coalition as well. So this adventure focuses on giving you a perspective of how these different clans interact with each other. Because even though they both have the ISO Empire as their enemy, it's quite clear in this book that they do not fully trust each other. It's quite common for example, for the Lotus Coalition to use the conflicts between the ISO and the Blossom Ninja to their advantage. Sometimes they could use them as decoys. So their alliances and opportunities for some diplomatic encounters are a bit tenuous, or are a bit risky, or not as safe or stable as you would like. So there's a lot of opportunity for diplomacy but also combat in this adventure. And at the end of the book, you have a gallery of non-player characters that you can use in any way that you like in your adventures and campaigns. You also have an index at the end, which is quite nice. Now, let me tell you what I think of the Land of Seed and Blossom. This source book, I think it raises so many interesting things, because instead of forwarding the timeline, it gives you a very complete, very, I could say even excellent way of expanding the meta plot sideways to the neighboring land of the land that is the land of Seed and Blossom. You're going to find many excuses to bring Ninja from the land of Seed and Blossom to the side of the ISO Empire, or even Ninja from the Lotus Coalition to the land of Seed and Blossom. There are different sites, even in the wilderness of the land of Seed and Blossom, that it could be worth visiting because of their medicinal plants, the treasures and mysteries hidden within. So it's quite breathtaking, and that you can have so many campaigns and adventures that have the ninja traveling from one place to another, east to southeast. That is the going to southeast into this very dangerous wilderness of the Blossom Ninja. So I think I wouldn't call this a must-have if you are still trying to get the hang of the entire meta plot and the story and background of Ninja Crusade, but I would consider it a must-have if you want like a fresh take on things, not only because of the angle from which the Blossom Ninja are looking at the entire ISO conflict or the Ninja Crusade, but rather also it feels like an entire new environment. The land itself of Seed and Blossom feels so mythological and mystical when compared to the different places that you have explored in the ISO Empire on the core rulebook. So I would definitely get the Land of Seed and Blossom if you're looking for a different place to explore, if you want to try out new clans, new jutsu and different fighting techniques, and if you're looking for some really awesome adventure sites, because a lot of the places to visit in the Land of Seed and Blossom feel like they are hiding so many mysteries and treasures, and they could hold the key to expelling the ISO Empire from the Land of Seed and Blossom once and for all. So with all things considered, I think this is an excellent book to expand the meta plot and the gameplay related options of the Ninja Crusade 2nd edition. Well, thanks for watching my review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. See you later.